I don't wanna be buried in a pet cemetery.
What are you gonna say?
It was definitely a little bit on the pitchy side.
Oh, hey! What's up, ghouls and gals? It's me, Righty here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Pet Sematary.
Sometimes dead is better.
Alright guys, like all my new movie reviews, I'm going to keep it short, sweet, simple, and to the motherfucking point. Alright guys, let's get it started. Pet Sematary stars Jason Clarke and all these people right here. Bloop, 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 bloop. Oh yeah, and it stars Gage the cat. Bloop. Alright guys, let me tell you what Pet Sematary 2019, as I like to call it, is about. Pet Sematary 2019 is a remake of a classic Stephen King film from the 90s that goes by the same name. And basically this film follows the Creed family as they relocate from Boston to Derry, Maine, where all Stephen King movies take place. And it just shows that this family is relocating to this new house that's like located in like a rural area in Maine, like in a lot of forests, a lot of dense woods. And that's kind of where the film picks up. It shows this family kind of adjusting to this new life, and you find out that the main character, the dad, he's a doctor, and the mom is a stay-at-home mom. So that's kind of the dynamic that they have going there. And one change that you're going to automatically notice when you watch this film is that this film takes away focus from the Gage character, who is kind of more or less the main focus of the original film, and instead focuses on a new character called Ellie, or Elle, which is the daughter of both of the parents in this film. And the film, its main focus is really on the father and the daughter and their kind of relationship, and him doing what he ultimately does. You know, he buries her because she, spoilers, gets hit by a truck or whatever. And I thought that was a kind of a cool change. You know, in the original movie, it was the small child Gage who gets hit by a truck. But in this film, again, spoilers, it's the girl Ellie, or Elle, who gets hit by the truck. And that's kind of where the movie takes off from that point. Well, I don't want to say it takes off from that point, because a lot of other stuff happens earlier on in the film, and you kind of get a sense of what this film is and kind of the atmosphere and tone of this film. That's one thing that this film does a really good job on. It uses its slower pace to its advantage. It uses that slow pace to build up a good atmosphere and a good creepy tone. That's one of the things that this film far better exceeds than the original film. It's a lot more creepier, and it's a lot more competent of a film. The original Pet Sematary was kind of it was a little bit corny, you know what I mean? As a lot of those classic Stephen King movies are. That doesn't mean that it's bad, but it's just a little bit more corny and slapsticky than this film is. This film is a lot more serious, and it's a lot more exposition heavy. You get a lot of more of an explanation than you did in the previous film, or the original Pet Sematary. And I like that. In my opinion, I like that. I like that this film threw a lot of exposition at us. I know a lot of people aren't gonna like that, because some audience members like more of a showing rather than telling. And in this film, I felt like it worked more to tell us what was going on rather than show us what was going on. It kept the film from being too overly complicated, and I like that. I like that about this film. Another thing that this film exceeds at it's the acting. The acting is way better in this film. Jason Clarke, he really carries this film as well, as does this child actress, Jete Lawrence. She is really good in this film. She is so creepy, and she pulls off that killer undead thing really well. And there's scenes where they just focus on her being creepy. Like, in particular, there's this one scene where Jason Clarke and her are laying in the bed, and he has just brought her back from the dead or whatever, and it's weird. It's a weird scene. The way that she says, like, "Daddy, I love you," is so fucking creepy. So for that, I gotta give her a high five for that one. And Jason Clarke, you get a bro fist. You get a bro fist. She deserves more of it than you do. But whatever, that's fine. They both did really well in this film. One thing I didn't like, it kind of feels like every other character except for the dad and the daughter are kind of put on the back burner. Even Jonathan Lithgow's Judd is kind of more of a expositional character. He's kind of just telling him like, hey, you know, well, you could do this, and he kind of introduces the father Creed, or Mr. Creed, to the Pet Sematary and whatnot. Another thing that I liked that this film did was the Sematary was kind of like calling to the father and like drawing him in, as opposed to where the original film is just, he's just like, oh yeah, the Pet Sematary. So I like that this film kind of made it not more believable, but more like, all right, I can see that happening. We're not, yeah, you know what I mean. You know what I fucking mean. However, one thing that this film does that I didn't like was it kind of throws away all of that slow building tension that it built up throughout the whole film in the last 30 minutes. The last 30 minutes of this film kind of just says like, fuck it, and goes for the typical slasher horror route, and I kind of wish that it didn't do that, because it was carving out its own identity earlier on in the film and kind of doing this rare thing where it was able to kind of, like I said, have its own identity but still stay close to that source material. And I hate that in the last 30 minutes of this film, it kind of throws all of that away and just goes into the same old horror tropes that people expected from this film. So that really kind of disappointed me. But I will say the ending of this film, I will give it some fucking applause. I will applaud the ending of this film for having the fucking balls to have an original ending and not end the way I think most people thought this film was going to end. But everything, not everything, but the, you know, the final act of this film, it's a little, again, I got a little bit under my skin, because I was like, you were doing so fucking well, and then you kind of just went the same route that every other horror movie goes. So for that, I kind of have to give it a 7 out of 10, guys, because that last half of this film was really disappointing to me. It kind of feels like if this film suffers the same problem as the original Pet Sematary, it kind of wrestles with the first half and the second half of this film. The first half is a lot of exposition. Like I said, it's slow building. It had, so that way you kind of get a feel for that creepy atmosphere. But once you get a feel for that creepy atmosphere and you're like, all right, you got me, the film's like, ah, fuck all that. We're just going to do what you fucking expect us to do. And that, it kind of disappointed me. But that's not to say that this film, it isn't good. It isn't good. I mean, that's not to say that this film isn't good. It is good. This film has a lot of good moments, and I will say 100% that this Pet Sematary is far superior than the original Pet Sematary. So there you have it, guys. Pet Sematary, it's a 7 out of 10 film, and I suggest you go out and watch it if you love horror movies, if you love Stephen King. This film has a lot of Easter eggs, so to speak, a lot of little subtle references to other Stephen King films, and if you like that sort of thing, you'll like that here. So yeah, guys, Pet Sematary 2019 is a 7 out of 10 flick. I suggest you go and watch it. And like always, I'm Ryan T, and I'll catch you in the next one.